Hey guys, Fletch Football Observer here, and today's video is going to be a Premier League review show reviewing Game 5 of the 2019-2020 season. This round of fixtures threw up some great goals, some big results, and even an odd shock or two. And in this video, I aim to review everything. So without further ado, let's begin. We're going to begin with Sunday afternoon's game that saw Watford fight back from 2 goals down to earn a point against Arsenal, although the Gunners will be kicking themselves for once again shooting themselves in the foot. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang drew first blood for the Gunners with 20 minutes on the clock, turning and firing beyond Ben Foster to score his 4th goal of the season, and 10 minutes later the Gabon striker scored his 5th goal of the season after a nice team goal that finished with Mesut Ozil slipping through Ainsley Maitland-Niles, whose ball across the face of goal was tapped home by the Gunners' talisman. However, in the second half, Arsenal's mistakes led to Watford getting back into the game. First, a short goal kick resulted in Socrates' pass being intercepted by Gerard Deulofeu, and in doing so it teed up Tom Cleverley to fire home to half the deficit, and later on in the game Roberto Pereira was brought down in the penalty area by David Luiz, and the referee didn't hesitate in pointing to the spot, and from the resulting spot kick, Pereira himself stepped up and converted from 12 yards. Neither side could find a winner with 10 minutes to go, meaning both teams had to settle for a point apiece. A decent point for Watford this. They showed a lot of encouragement and potential as to where they could go under Sanchez Flores this season in the hopes of turning their poor early form around. But for Arsenal, a poor game management and some shocking errors really did cost them in this game. The worst part was you could see Watford's first goal coming from a mile off after they were constantly gifting the Hornets the ball in dangerous areas. Watford's next game doesn't come any easier though, as they will be facing Manchester City next weekend, whilst the Gunners will be hoping to get back to winning ways when they face Aston Villa on Sunday. In our next game, a Marcus Rashford penalty was the difference maker as Manchester United got back to winning ways, putting an end to Leicester's unbeaten start to the season in the process. 8 minutes were on the clock when the penalty was awarded after Kagler Soyuncu brought down Marcus Rashford in the penalty area. The England striker stepped up for the spot kick and sent Kasper Schmeichel the wrong way. Both sides had chances to change the scoreline, but ultimately Rashford's penalty proved to be the decisive factor in this game as United claimed a very important victory. A very important 3 points here for United, much needed considering the average start to the season that they've made. As for Leicester, unbeaten start to the season comes to an end. Maybe the international break disrupted them a little, but ultimately a bad day at the office and they'll look to bounce back next week. United's next game is an away trip to West Ham, whilst Leicester hosts Tottenham in Saturday's lunchtime kickoff. Our next game produced goals galore as Chelsea came out 5-2 winners over Wolves at Molineux. It took half an hour for the deadlock to be broken, but it was well worth the wait as Fikayo Tomori scored an absolute stunning goal, curling the ball from long range into the back of the net after the loose ball kindly fell into his path. A few minutes later, Chelsea doubled their lead as Tammy Abraham got his eventful afternoon underway with a shot on the turn that beat Rui Patricio in the Wolves' goal. The young striker then got his second and the Blues' third of the afternoon before the interval when he headed home Marcos Alonso's cross, and it wasn't long after the restart that he went on to complete his hat-trick, skipping away from Wolves defender Connor Cody and finding the back of the net. Abraham got his 4th goal of the afternoon, although this one was in his own net after Roman Sais's header deflected off of him and into the Blues net to give Wolves a glimmer of hope, and Wolves even went on to grab a second goal back through Patrick Cutrone, who bundled the ball home after Kepa had initially managed to keep out Matt Doherty's shot. But in the end, the 2 goals proved to be nothing than consolations as Mason Mount wrapped up the game striking home as the Blues picked up their 2nd victory of the season. A truly entertaining game of football. The Tomori goal in particular was the pick of the goals. It's well worth watching. An incredible goal by a young defender. The Blues pick up 3 great points and are starting to score plenty of goals, with Tammy Abraham in particular coming to form. As for Wolves, unlike them to have such a weak defence, they definitely miss Willy Bolly for this game. But even so, their defence was that weak, and they'll be looking to obviously bounce back next week when they face Crystal Palace away next Sunday. As for the Blues, they have Champions League commitments midweek, but then afterwards they'll also be playing on Sunday, but they face a much tougher task, with all due respect, when they face the only unbeaten side left in the Premier League, as they host Liverpool at Stamford Bridge. A late equaliser by Jeff Hendrick rescued a point for the Clarets, as both Burnley and Brighton had settled for a point apiece at the Amex Stadium. It was a game in which Brighton had the better of the chances, but it wasn't until shortly after the restart that they managed to make the pressure pay. Solly March's cross was met acrobatically by Neil Maupay, who managed to find the back of the net and draw first blood for the Seagulls. Brighton held the lead till injury time, where Jeff Hendrick's long-range strike found the bottom corner, and he managed to rescue a point for Sean Dyche's men and bail them out of jail, as both sides were forced to share the spoils. I think for this result, Brighton will be kicking themselves for not putting this game to bed. They certainly had the better of the chances to do so, but in the end, Burnley came back and managed to get a point from this game, and in actual reality, this isn't the ideal result for either side, but a point apiece is what both sides are going to have to settle for. Brighton travel up to Newcastle for their next game in Saturday's evening fixture, whilst Burnley host Norwich at Turf Moor. For our next game, we're off to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, as this was the setting of an absolute riot by Spurs as they beat Crystal Palace by 4-0. It was a first half in which Tottenham got the job done and dusted, as they scored all 4 of their goals inside the first 45 minutes. It only took 10 minutes to open the scoring as well, as a long ball over the top of the Palace defence released Son Heung-min, who cut back onto his left foot and found the back of the net. 10 minutes later, Spurs' lead was doubled when Serge Aurier's cross was deflected into his own net by Patrick Van Aanholt, and mere minutes later, Spurs got their third goal of the afternoon after a great team goal ended with Aurier's cross, this time finding Son at the back post, and the South Korean scored his second goal of the afternoon. Eric Lamela completed the rout as he got in on the act before half-time when he was picked out by Harry Kane's cross, and the Argentine made no mistake in scoring from close range, as Spurs got back to winning ways in this game. A big win for Tottenham, a great win, a convincing win, a lethal and professional performance. But now they need to show consistency, and following the beginning of their Champions League campaign this week, they'll be back in Premier League action next Saturday lunchtime when they face Leicester. As for Palace, a terrible day at the office, a poor performance, a bit of a reality check following the highs of their league performances so far pre-international break. They'll be looking to bounce back next weekend when they face Wolves next Sunday. And now for the shock of this round of fixtures, and it came at Carrow Road, where an injury hit Norwich managed to beat defending Premier League champions Manchester City by 3-2. The Canaries took the lead inside 20 minutes when Kenny McLean headed home from a corner, and 10 minutes later their home side's lead was doubled when Timu Ipuki squared the ball across the face of goal for Todd Cantwell to tap home. City did manage to halve the deficit on a stroke of half-time, however, when Sergio Aguero headed home from Bernardo Silva's cross. But 5 minutes after the restart, Norwich restored their 2-goal cushion after pressuring Nicolas Otamendi in his own penalty area. Emi Buendia robbed the ball off the Argentine and found Timu Ipuki, who found the back of the net to score his 6th goal of the season. City managed to grab a late goal through Rodri's strike, which was too hot for Tim Krul to handle, but the Canaries managed to hold on for an incredible victory and a well-fought and well-earned 3 points. Well, I think I'm not alone in saying that I certainly didn't see this result coming. The Canaries were forced into making several changes due to injuries. City had several key players playing incredible football and were on very good form, and then this result came up. This is why I love football. Eyebrows were certainly raised when Kevin De Bruyne didn't start, a gamble that clearly didn't pay off, but full credit to Norwich for this result. And this gives everybody that facing City hope of beating them. Norwich will be looking to make it back-to-back wins when they face Burnley next weekend, whilst for City, they have Champions League commitments this week before facing Watford on Saturday. For our next game, we go to Monday night's fixture, where 10-man West Ham managed to hold out for a point after a 0-0 stalemate with Aston Villa at Villa Park. It was a game that produced few chances, with John McGinn going close on a couple of occasions for the home side, whilst at the other end, Sebastien Haller headed wide for the Hammers. But the main talking point of the game came in the second half when the referee Mike Dean gave Arthur Masuaku a second yellow card for an alleged foul on Ahmed El Mohammadi. Something that when you see it on the replay looks extremely harsh. But despite the dismissal, the Hammers held on for the point. This result for Villa was seen as a missed opportunity. They had the better of the chances but couldn't make West Ham properly pay for them, despite having a man advantage for at least a quarter of the game. And considering the results of the teams currently around them, it's even more of a missed opportunity not to have climbed the table any higher here. As for West Ham, this draw makes it 3 straight games unbeaten. The red card was a little unfortunate for them, but they didn't really create anything clear-cut themselves. Both sides will be hoping for better results in their next games when Villa take on Arsenal in their next fixture, whilst West Ham will be hosting Manchester United on Sunday. A great solo goal by Moussa Djenepo was what managed to separate Southampton and Sheffield United at Bramall Lane as the Saints recorded their second victory of the season. The Saints had previously gone close twice through Shay Adams. First he hit the post, and on the second occasion he forced a great save from the Blades goalkeeper. And then in the second half, United thought they had taken the lead through Ollie McBurney's strike, but thanks to VAR, the goal was chalked off. Eventually though, Southampton did go on to take the lead minutes after the hour mark when Djenepo from inside the Blades half weaved his way into the penalty area before firing a shot into the back of the net. To add to United's miserable afternoon, with 5 minutes to go, Billy Sharp was sent off for a straight red card for his bad challenge on Stuart Armstrong. A great win for the Saints here. This result means they've now recorded a run of 3 games unbeaten, and things are looking pretty decent for Southampton here in all honesty. Especially for their new signing, Moussa Djenepo, who has already scored 2 very good goals in a Saints shirt. And they'll be hoping for him to maintain this kind of form going forward. As for the Blades, a bad day at the office, a miserable afternoon in which they had a goal ruled out moments before the Saints scored, and then saw Billy Sharp get sent off. They'll be looking to put this game behind them and focus on their next game, which is against Everton on Saturday, whilst the Saints turn their attention to hosting Bournemouth on Friday night. In the penultimate game on this list, it saw Liverpool maintain their perfect start of the season following a 3-1 victory over Newcastle at Anfield. Rather surprisingly, it was the away side that actually drew first blood here when Jetro Williams fired beyond Adrian in the Reds' goal to put the Magpies 1-up. The Reds, however, equalised later in the half through Sadio Mane's finessed effort into the top corner, and it wasn't long after that Liverpool went ahead. Roberto Firmino slipped through Mane again, whose first attempt was spilled by the Magpies goalkeeper, and the winger had the easiest of tap-ins as a result. Liverpool put the game beyond all doubt in the second half. Firmino again the provider with a sublime flick into the path of Mohamed Salah, who drove into the penalty area before finding the back of the net. Another win for Liverpool, and the icing on top of this cake is that Manchester City lost this weekend, meaning they take an early 5-point lead at the top of the table. But of course, it's still very early days, and I don't think no Liverpool fan is getting ahead of themselves just yet. But for now, they can enjoy the results and especially the performances of one Roberto Firmino, who again stole the show in this game yet again when he arrived off the bench. As for Newcastle, the result happened that many people had predicted. They probably saw this game as a bit of a free swing anyway themselves, and they'll just want to move on from this fixture and on to the next game, which is against Brighton next Saturday evening. As for Liverpool, they begin their Champions League defence this week before facing an interesting test on Sunday when they face Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. And in our final game, Bournemouth ran out 3-1 winners against an Everton side who had quite the defensive nightmare at the Vitality Stadium. Callum Wilson opened the scoring for the Cherries with a header from close range, but Everton responded close to half-time through Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who scored a header of his own. But in the second half, despite a decent spell of Everton pressure, it eventually came to nothing, and it was Bournemouth who made the Toffees pay. First, Ryan Fraser's free kick deflected in off of Fabian Delph as it found its way into the back of his own net to put Eddie Howe's side back in front. And then 5 minutes later, Bournemouth put the game to bed when a simple ball over the top of the Everton defence freed Wilson in on goal, and his good finish not only scored his second goal of the afternoon, but also wrapped up the points for the home side in the process. A good win here for Bournemouth, and if you look ahead to their next list of fixtures, they've got some pretty favourable encounters coming up, so getting their attacking options on form for those games will certainly help their cause in the long run. As for Everton, defensive issues and away form issues for them, they'll need to be addressed as soon as possible. As for their next games, Bournemouth turn their attention to their game on Friday night against Southampton, whilst the Toffees host Sheffield United on Saturday. And that wraps up this Premier League review show for Game 5 of the 2019-2020 season. Guys, if you have any thoughts or comments on any of the round's results or any of the major talking points from this round of fixtures, I'd love to read them in the comments section below. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way out if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things would be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch the Football Observer. This has been another Premier League review show, and I will see and speak with you all again soon in another video.